Hey everybody, Clay Archer, CEO DVC Technology. I've got a great one today. Today we're going to cover the long-awaited G6 180 camera. So everybody's been super excited about this camera. It is a unique camera. It's a dual sensor camera, and I have to say it is pretty incredible little camera. So right off the bat, let's jump into store.ui.com here and take a look at the camera. So I've got the G6 turret, the G6 Pro turret, and the G6 180. I think these are the three cameras that kind of are comparable. Obviously, the G6 Pro turret is a whole nother level above this camera, but I just want to put it there because it will be a bit in this video just for price comparison and comparison of features. The G6 turret is $199. The G6 Pro turret is a much more expensive camera. It's $479. And the G6 180 is going to be $299. The dimensions, you can take note of those. I originally thought the G6 180 was going to be a much bigger camera, but you'll be pleasantly surprised at how small it is. And it'll become a little bit more apparent when you'll see Daniel unbox it here. But it's 5.6 by 2.5 by 3.6 form factor, which is a totally new form factor, and it's much different than the other turrets. The IR night vision is only 20 meters. Obviously, it's got to cover a lot more area, but there will be an optional additional IR enhancer that's going to come in 2026. I'm really excited to see what that looks like, and I will test that when it comes out. It doesn't have zoom. The G6 Pro turret does have zoom. You can say it has two-way audio, whereas the G6 turret has only got a microphone. They're all IP66. The mounting options, this is really cool. Included in the box, there's a ceiling, a pole, a wedge mount, a pan adapter, and additionally there's a camera junction box, an arm mount, a dual mount, a gang box, and a mounting plate. So really flexible mounting options for this camera, and we'll go into that a little bit in the unboxing. It is 10-100. It's 20 frames per second versus 30 frames per second in the G6 turret and the G6 Pro turret. It is 16 megapixels, which is basically two of these 8 megapixel sensors stitched together. It's using the 1/1.8 sensor, the same one that is in the G6 turret. The G6 Pro turret is using that 1/1.2 inch 8 megapixel sensor. It's a fixed focal length with a built-in IR LED and IR cut filter. It's 15 watts. It's PoE plus, similar to the G6 Pro. The G6 turret is only PoE, not PoE plus. They're all using the same quad-core ARM Cortex A53 based chip. And you can see that it's 1.8 pounds, which is less than the 2.6 pounds of the G6 Pro turret, which is really amazing. It really is freakishly small. I was expecting it to be much bigger than it is, which is a good thing. You can also see it has a micro SD card for edge recording, similar to the G6 turret. Its operational window is a little bit narrower on the cold side than the G6 turret and the G6 Pro turret, but still pretty impressive at -20 to 50 degrees Celsius. Real quickly, I'll jump into the camera listing itself. The link will be down in the description, but it's an indoor-outdoor dual sensor, 16 megapixel, 20 frame per second PoE plus camera with multi-tops AI engine and panoramic 180 degree coverage. It does come in black and white, and as I mentioned, it comes with quite a few accessories in the box. So let's jump into Daniel's unboxing real quick. You can see it's the typical beautiful UniFi packaging that we've all come to know and love. In the box, you'll find the device itself. You'll find the different mounting options, which we'll go through. We also get a box of accessories that has the weatherproof grommets, the screwdriver to access the camera, and all the mounting hardware. On the top of the camera, you'll see a door, and if you use the included screwdriver to open up that door, in there you'll find the micro SD card slot to do your edge recording. You'll also see a USB port, and that is going to be for the image enhancer that's going to come out in 2026. So if you do get that image enhancer, you will open up this port and plug that in. There are 2 additional screw holes there, and I think that those are there for mounting that image enhancer. On the back of the unit, you'll see that there's a new design for cable management and the RJ45 adapter. It's actually on a hinged adapter, and it folds out to make access easier. There is a pole mount. There is an angled mount, so there is a little bit of angle that you can do with the camera itself. And also there is a wall mount / ceiling mount cover that would go on like a workbox. It is the circular mount. There is one additional plate, which is actually the plate that goes against the wall, and it clips into the back of these mounts. So I'll show you real quickly. There is some up and down adjustability of the unit itself. You use the screwdriver, and there's a screw on the edge of the unit itself that will loosen and tighten that up and down adjustability. And then there is this back plate. The back plate goes against the wall, and then the unit itself locks into it. To release the unit from the wall, if you wanted to take it down, there is a slot in it, and you use that typical UniFi tool to push down in that hole, and it will release off of that back plate to release the unit from the wall. It's a really elegant solution, and when you're done with the installation, it looks really clean. So you can see Daniel's put the grommet on the Cat6 cable that he's using here, and he screwed it down to weatherproof that connection. And then you just pull out the RJ45 adapter on the back of the unit itself, giving you easier access to plug in the Cat6 cable. Then once it's plugged in, you just align the dot with the dot on the unit and you twist it to the locking position, and then it's just locked in and weatherproofed. Then you can use the included cable management to bring the cable out of whichever end of the unit you want. Then the unit will just snap against the install plate, mount into whichever mount that you choose to mount it to. And as I mentioned before, it really is a very clean installation. So with that, Daniel prepped for going out and mounting it to the light pole by putting the pole mount on the adapter there and getting it ready so he could just walk outside and mount it to the light pole. So once outside, all Daniel had to do was mount that mounting bracket to a hose clamp and put it on the pole and get it in the right position. A little behind the scenes here, we actually moved the camera several times. We mounted it below the box, we mounted it above the box. When I mounted it above the box, and you'll see later in this video, at night, I got a little glare off the Flex Utility Pro at nighttime. So then we moved it back down below again. Super easy to move this camera up and down. Really easy with this mounting system to just kind of undo it and do it again. Another thing of note when you're watching Daniel install it here is the size of the unit. It really is freakishly small. You can also see in the video there, Daniel used the screwdriver on the side of it to adjust the up and down tilt to get it to see the best view of the parking lot. So with that, Daniel finished up what I think is a really attractive install of the camera. And let's jump in and see exactly what the camera looks like. Obviously, what Daniel was doing that, he plugged it in. I just went adopt on it. It went through a couple of updates. It was simple and easy. Typically, I would adopt that on my phone, but we were working on that together and I adopted it right there in the software. If you are doing that by yourself, if Daniel was by himself on the ladder doing that, he could have just easily brought up the Protect on his phone and adopted it right there. It would have shown up in the app and you can click adopt on your phone. So with that, let's jump in real quick and take a look at the image. Now, I've been using it for a couple days now. Right off the bat, you can see this is just a really pretty image. And I have it here right below the G6 Pro turret. So you can see right off the bat the difference in field of view. So you can see to the wheel well of the F-150 there to the edge of this window. And you can see here, it would be basically here to here that you're seeing. So you're getting a whole extra camera worth of edge here, which is basically the cheat code of this camera. One other thing to note here, it is stitched in the middle. And I have a really hard time seeing where that stitch is unless something moves through it. You can barely see where it is when somebody moves through that stitch. You can see just kind of a little glitch in the matrix, but for the most part, I would say, you know, that stitch is happening somewhere around here, and I would challenge you to see what that is in real life. Now, the obvious thing is you are getting this in this ultra wide format versus a regular turret camera where you're seeing kind of that 16:9 that you're used to. So to get around in this, I actually do it with two different things. I handle this very similar to the way that I would handle a PTZ. So I scroll in a little bit with my mouse and then I use my left and right buttons to see it at full screen. So if I wanted to zoom in on, like, let's just say the numbers on the side of the truck, I can use my mouse and my keyboard to do that. I also can use I and O on the keyboard to go in and out. And sometimes that works at being a little bit more granular, but it is very much like a PTZ. Obviously, this is a specialty camera, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. If you're looking at it in a multi-view here, you probably want to hit this fit to window where it's going to scrunch it in there. And if you wanted to see some activity in it, you would go into the camera itself and then, you know, scroll around as you would with the PTZ. So you're going to get all your basic information just like normal and nothing crazy there. And under recording options, I have it set on always and continuous here, but here's where you can change your different detections. I've got it for animal face, license plate, person, in vehicle, which is everything in do. If you're ever not sure there, you can always just click in the blank space and it'll show you everything that you have available to you with that camera. Same thing with audio detections. I have it on everything there just for testing. I can also change the seconds added before and after different detections. Also, same thing with motion events. You can also choose not to record motion events if you want to, and you can turn on or off tamper detection. I leave all the video compression the same. I also choose to put the camera name up in the corner of the camera. You can choose to change that to time or logo or bitrate or whatever else. I also am leaving recording retention on auto. Zones and line are identical to every other camera. You can click in there to edit what your zones. I obviously exclude the street because I don't want every car going by. But in zones, you can also turn on spotlight when dark, and you can change the sensitivity there Same thing with smart zones. You can put in an exclusion zone. You can choose all of the different types of detections. And for loitering, you can choose, what kind of loitering, how long. I'm actually going to change that now, and I'm going to turn off vehicle loitering. You can change the sensitivity, and you can turn on spotlight when dark. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And for same thing with crossing lines and privacy zones, you can add a line in privacy zones as needed. And finally, under settings, you can change the name of the camera. You can set the microphone sensitivity settings, and I have noise detection turned on. Yesterday it was really windy. I did a quick sound sample with Daniel. I'll play that now.
Testing camera audio. Testing. Hello.
I hesitate to do those audio detections because it's so environmentally dependent. We're on a road here. It could be windy out there, and your mileage may vary, and what you get in your location may be different than the next guy. Here's an important one, and this really is going to be important if you are recording things closer or farther away. So this is your lens fusion offset. The algorithm they're using to blend this together will get tricked a little bit there. And I noticed when we were doing some pre-filming here in the office, the closer you get, the kind of more illusion you'll get, and the more you're going to have to mess with this lens fusion offset. For me, where it was right out of the box worked really well. And I think it was kind of right in this zone. But depending where you are, you may have to adjust this to get everything close to you and far from you in alignment there. So anyways, right about there seems to be our sweet spot. I'll go through in some recordings there where you can see people go across that line there and what that does to the image. But if you are having some issues there, this is where you go into to mess with that. The night vision stuff will play with at night here. It's got auto and custom, and you can use custom here to change the sensitivity when you turn it on and off. For me in the parking lot, 99.99% of the time, meaning when I'm not testing, these two lights are on and it's staying out of IR night vision, and it's really still in this same kind of day vision, color vision mode. On the camera itself, you can have it play status sounds and have the status light on, or if you want it to be a little bit more covert, you could turn those off. Under advanced settings, you're going to get the image setting stuff. I typically do not play with these because for testing, I want you guys to see what they look like raw out of the camera. But if you did have a situation where you needed to increase contrast or brightness or all that, you could mess with it here. One other thing of note here is I do not see the option to flip the camera. So you do need to mount this right side up. There isn't an option here to flip that upside down if you do have it upside down. There may be some option to do that, or it may auto do it, but I did not find that anywhere. And I just chose to mount it right side up. And here you have that color night vision, which will basically throw it into that color mode if it sees activity. Which is a really nice feature, and I just left it at default there. One other thing I want to say about the physical installation of the camera, and I am in Florida, and I've been doing this for a while, and if you follow me for a while, you may have seen my G4 Pro, I believe it was, a video where I had some fogging issue inside of the camera. And it took several days for that fogging to go away before the camera was usable. And you may have noticed over the past couple of years, in the past couple of versions of cameras, they've put a desiccant package and a little pocket in the cameras for that desiccant package to go to basically absorb that moisture and prevent that problem. Well, that was a cool solution and it worked. They've just introduced something even cooler here on the G6 180, and I'll put it up on the screen right now and I'll read it to you. The purpose of the embedded heater in the G6 180, like other UniFi Protect cameras, is to remove moisture during the initial setup after unboxing. This helps prevent condensation inside the device, ensuring clear image quality and reliable operation. The heater automatically activates for the first 6 hours, which may cause the metal housing to feel warm during this period. This is normal and part of the device's design. What should I do if water vapor remains inside of the camera after 6 hours of heating? If water vapor is still inside the camera, the lens, after the initial 6-hour heating cycle, performs a manual power cycle, restart the G6 180. This reactivates the heater for another 6 hours to further dissipate any remaining moisture. This is very cool. Obviously, I'm in Florida. Sometimes when things are manufactured and sealed somewhere else and they ship them to us here in Florida, we get these type of moisture issues. And this is a very welcome advancement to avoid those kind of issues. You know, nobody wants to spend $300 on a camera just to have it fog up on your first use. And if it does fog up on your first use and you have a built-in way to mitigate that issue, I think it definitely will make that less stressful. So that is a really cool additional feature. With that, obviously this camera looks really good. I mean, and we've come to expect that out of these UniFi cameras. You know, the default image quality of the G6 is amazing. And honestly, I was going to put the G6 turret above the G6 180, but it was kind of redundant. And the image quality of the two of them is very similar. So I decided to throw the G6 Pro up there just to see how it competes against its bigger brother. And quite honestly, it competes really well. I'll zoom into this image of the Transit here, and you can see it's pretty doggone similar. I mean, splitting hairs, the Pro is a little bit sharper maybe, but it is not night and day difference. I think this speaks to the quality of the images. I think at nighttime, the bigger sensor does a better job, but during the daytime, I don't think there is that much in it. There is a little bit of distortion and it's not really distortion, but obviously your vertical lines, you know, the further out they go, they get a little bit you know, obviously off of kilter, but the sharpness is still there. You can see the precision over there. You can see the bricks. Everything looks really nice. I wouldn't say that there is anything on the edge of it that I think is like soft or weak. But you know, obviously at the edge of any sensor on any camera, it's not going to be as sharp on the very edges as it is in the center. But I really, honestly, I don't notice a ton of that you know, being an issue with this camera. Down here in these little bushes, you know, still getting a lot of detail. It looks really, really good. So with that, let's jump into some previous recordings of the day. I've got it set for the G6 180 and the G6 Pro turret here. So you can see here on these detections, I mean, that looks really good. And it's a perfect detection to go through here. Go back a little bit here on it. You can see Darian walking in his car and somebody walking their dog. You know, this is what you're going to get with this width of view here. And the performance of it's really good. And I can zoom in here on the people. I mean, during the day, I think this, you know, phenomenal image quality here. I can pause it when Darian's leaving. I can see his license plate there. I'm not getting a detection on that. And that is one thing that I think, you know, you probably aren't getting this camera per se to get incredible license plate detections. Although I can visually see that license plate pretty well. I didn't get a license plate detection on that, but I don't necessarily think that that's what this camera is for. If you're trying to do license plate detection, I think you would get the G6 Pro turret or, you know, AI LPR or something along those lines. That's going to do a little bit better job of license plate detection. But I do think if the timing is right and you're close enough with this camera, I think you probably will get license plate detections, but I would look at that as a bonus, not necessarily as what this camera is designed for. But I do think this detection, and this is just a random detection I brought up here, is kind of a cool example of what you could expect to see here, where I've got, you know, just a lot of things going on in this field of view. I've got people from edge to edge here on this detection, and I've got a lot of stuff going on, and it seems to have nailed it pretty nicely. Let's go on and take a look at some other stuff here. Again, nothing, you know, that special here, just a nice detection. And you can see I did a re-ID with an AI key here, and I've got multiple shots of the same person walking around inside the office as it is outside. So basically what I'm experiencing here is very similar to what I'm getting out of the G6 turret, which is just nice detections and typical performance from Ubiquiti cameras here in late 2025. I can also go to car detections here, and you can see similar performance here, getting pretty much everybody leaving the parking lot. So I will say here's a license plate detection you got here versus the G6 Pro turret. But that also being said, I am getting much more license plate detections off of the G6 Pro turret than I am off of the G6 Pro. And this goes for, you know, what I always say with UniFi cameras. If you can see it with your eyes, you're typically going to get that detection in here. You can see that I can see that with my eyes, and we did get that detection, which is cool. As with all LPR, I will tell you your mileage may vary. I would not buy this camera as a LPR killer, but it is capable of doing it in the right situations. If you are at the right distance, if the vehicles are moving slow enough, and if you have enough light, I would assume that you are going to get decent LPR out of it. So let's wait for it to be dark. We'll come back in a few minutes and we will test in the dark to see what that performance is like. All right, so you can see here that I've got the G6 Pro turret and the G6 180 here in my parking lot. Again, as I always tell you, it is not very dark in my parking lot, so there is a lot of ambient light from around the area. As a matter of fact, you can see here the lights in the area. I will tell you, it's 6:15 on a winter's evening. It is very dark outside, but you do see some glow in the sky up here. That is just because these are really good cameras and they are really sensitive. You can see the shadows from all the lights you can see inside of the office over here and the Christmas tree, but in fact, it is pretty dark outside. And here I will show you the G6 180. Very nice image as well. Again, I think these clouds up in the sky, I think that's just glow from Jacksonville City. I don't think you're really seeing any light up in the skies, especially this direction. This is the eastern sky and in that direction. You are getting some reflection. I have this mounted just above the service box in this location. And to tell you the truth, I would probably raise this up a little bit if I was mounting this for long term. I did it up here in a test location, and you can see this Flex Utility Pro box in these two corners here is reflecting back some of the light. But you can see here the image is relatively good. You can see there's some ghosting on Daniel, but I got Daniel in the parking lot and you can see him pretty well. Here as well on the G6 Pro turret, man, that bigger sensor on the G6 Pro turret is not a fair fight, but you can see the beauty of that bigger sensor. Again, you're getting more in this image. You're getting left to right on this image. And I mean, this image is pretty doggone good. I will say again, it's pretty dark in the parking lot. As a matter of fact, when the lights are not on during wintertime, I have to change the schedule. The employees come out and they will tell me, hey, Clay, the lights aren't on in the parking lot, and they want them there just to feel safer. So let me show you what it looks like. First of all, I'm going to force this into IR mode. Again, it never gets quite dark. The G6 Pro turret will stay in color mode all night long unless I force it. Like I said in my review of that, you can see it just flipped over here to IR. So now it's always going to be on there, and I will do the same thing for the G6 Pro turret. And now this is a fair representation of both of these cameras. Again, I think I've got this camera a little too close to the box here, but you can still see here. Great. This is a great rendition of what Daniel really looks like there versus the Pro. Even better version of what Daniel looks like. You can also see is for the further off axis he gets here from the IR emitter, the darker he gets. But he's coming back through the middle of the scene again. Really doing a pretty good job with ghosting. Let's go see what the G6 Pro turret does. You can really nice job there as well. For a more practical look, this is what you're really going to see if you were looking in the parking lot. I'll turn those lights back on. So this is more practical what you would get with the camera lights on. Wow, that looks really good. The street light on, I'm sorry, not the camera light, with the street light on, that is a really good image. Wow, I'm impressed with that. Hey, Future Clay here. I want to jump in real quick. We actually lowered the camera below that Flex Utility Pro box. You might have noticed yesterday, and I felt it and I saw it and I just wasn't quite sure, but there was in the lower right-hand corner and the lower left-hand corner of the view, there was that Flex Utility Pro box. You could see it, and I think the IR was bouncing up off of it, and I was getting this kind of milky glow in the video. And so I just wanted to go back to today. I actually put the camera below that box and made sure there wasn't any reflection off of that box. It's a rookie mistake on my part. It's something I shouldn't do, but it's a good lesson when you are mounting these things on a sill or on the side of a building to make sure there's nothing that is reflecting back the IR that's close to the device itself. Now, you can reflect off the car in the distance or whatever, but if you have something that's in the near field of view, it will affect the image. So you can see this is just a better image. There's just less milkiness into it. And I'm really happy that you can see his phone's doing his little dotty thing there with his sensor in it. And yeah, so you can see a neat looking up. Also cool, you can see that the PTZ Precision is trying to focus on him. That's the LiDAR and the PTZ Precision. But that is what it looks like at night. I just wanted to jump in. Some of that footage may not have looked perfect, but I feel like this image looks a lot better. I'm getting a little bit of a flare there, but man, this looks a lot better. I will still say, just in commentary on this, there needs to be more IR on the left and right side of this image. And I think that that image enhancer would be a really good addition to get a little bit more IR over, in this left corner here. It's pretty dark over there. Again, the IR emitter in this camera is having to cover a lot of area. So I think this, of all cameras, is going to see a lot of benefit of the image enhancer. But anyways, I just wanted to jump in real quick and show you what a clean image would look like at dark with the IR emitters with no reflection from that Flex Utility Pro. So let's get back to the video. And you can see he's going to hit the seam right about there. Pretty good job of handling that. There's a little, a little bit of a optical illusion when he goes through there. Pretty cool. Let me do this as well, and we'll go back and we will turn back on the color vision so we can put this back into auto. It should automatically pop over into color mode, and we will put this one in auto as well. Man, that looks really good. I mean, I can identify, oh man, that looks really good. Oh, I'm impressed by that. And I'll do that in the bigger sensor. The bigger sensor definitely looks better, but not by a huge amount. I'm actually pretty impressed with that. You can see when he loses the light there in this color mode, he gets pretty grainy pretty quick. So that's pretty grainy, although it's not the world's worst image. And keep looking there, Daniel. We'll do that in the G6 Pro turret. Really not that much in him at that. You can see the ghosting is more when he's got that movement there. Obviously in this mode, light is key. So if somebody goes into a dark area when it is in that non-IR mode, it definitely makes a difference. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and wrap this up. All right, so with all that testing, who do I think this camera is for? Well, this camera has a couple of really cool cheat codes. First of all, I think it's basically 2 G6 turrets for $100 less than it would cost you to buy 2 G6 turrets. If you were going to put 2 G6 turrets in opposite directions, I think it's a no-brainer to get the G6 180. Also, you get to run 1 Cat6 cable versus 2 Cat6 cables. So if you're a professional installer, that's going to reduce the cost of this install by, for us, that's $175 savings. And if you're doing it yourself, it's going to save you the extra hassle of doing that. And it's going to reduce your cost of switching. Let's just say you're at the 9th input of your 8-port PoE switch. Well, having 1 camera instead of 2 cameras, you save you the cost of getting a bigger switch or adding another switch. That's really cool in and of itself. But that being said, I don't know if this camera is for everybody. One thing I would like to see out of this camera, and I think they may be able to do this in future firmware, is have it show up as 2 separate cameras in your live view. As you saw when I was using the camera, I have to manage this camera and what I'm seeing. Sometimes I want to see both cameras. So we have viewports up in our office that show us cameras. And so it's not as useful to see this in its skinny wide view or its collapsed view of the center as it would be to see 2 separate cameras in that instance. So I would like to see that as an addition someday. So let's say you're putting this on the side of a commercial building or an industrial building or somewhere where you want to get the best detections. I think some of the newer cameras do a better job of both person and face detection than this camera does. That's not saying this camera is bad in any way, shape, or form. At this price point, it's performing above its pay grade, but I don't think it is in the same category as some of the higher end cameras. But I think for 90% of the people out there, this is going to be a wonderful camera. If you're just trying to look at the side of a building and you want to be able to see up and down both sides of the building, I think this is a phenomenal piece of equipment. If you want to put it on a pole like I've got it here, if you wanted to look up and down a hall, I think is a wonderful device for that. One other thing I think it will really benefit from is that vision enhancer. I think 180 degrees of coverage from the unit itself is difficult, and I think an enhancer would be awesome. And obviously, I don't know all the details of that, but typically you get an enhanced speaker and a microphone array and that kind of stuff in those enhancers as well, and I think that would be welcome on this unit. But I think the biggest takeaway here is it's another form factor for UniFi and another option for installers and end users. As always, I think UniFi is enhancing their offerings and making the Protect ecosystem better, and I think this definitely adds to the ecosystem. So that's it. So please let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. I get to all of those, and if there's anything you want me to test in this camera or any upcoming cameras, please let me know. I love to hear your input. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.